mysteries abound everywhere. Lost cities, ancient civilizations, and mysteries abound. The legend of Atlantis is one of the most well-known mysteries. The story of a massive volcanic eruption that destroyed an island nation is told in the Atlantis legend. This island may have been in the Mediterranean Sea or the Atlantic Ocean, according to some. The actual location of the lost city is still a mystery, and the existence of Atlantis has been debated for centuries. Do you know why it's so hard to find Atlantis? Because it's at the ocean's bottom. Throughout the centuries, numerous attempts to locate Atlantis' lost city have failed. It is frequently held that Atlantis was on the Greek island of Santorini. This is because the island bears witness to a massive volcanic eruption. But there is no conclusive evidence that Santorini is Atlantis' lost city. To provide an answer to the question, this blog post will examine the various theories regarding the location of Atlantis. Where does Atlantis lie? Therefore, let's explore the ocean's depths and see what we find. For centuries, people have been debating whether the legend of Atlantis is true or just a figment of the imagination. The lost city has been the subject of numerous theories, but its existence is unknown. Atlantis, according to some, was a nation of islands that was decimated by natural disasters. Others hold the belief that the intriguing tale of Atlantis is merely a legend. Although there is no tangible proof of the existence of Atlantis, there are intriguing theories regarding the lost city. Atlantis may have been in the Atlantic Ocean, according to one theory. The fact that the word Atlantis comes from the Greek word Atlantis, which means the island of Atlas, is the foundation of this theory. It is possible that Atlantis was a real place, but the ancient world is still a mystery. Ignatius Donnelly, a representative from Minnesota, published his book Atlantis, the advanced civilization he described. The antediluvian world piqued interest worldwide. According to Donnelly, Atlantis was the source of all ancient cultures, including those in Greece, Egypt, and Mesoamerica. He suggested that Atlantis was destroyed by a catastrophic event like a comet hitting the Earth. According to other theories about Atlantis, the lost city is underwater. Due to the large number of ships and aircraft that have vanished, the Bermuda Triangle is a popular location for the lost city. Because of the electromagnetic fields in this area, some people believe that Atlantis is in the triangle. It is claimed that these fields are strong enough to cause electronic devices to malfunction. Atlantis is thought to have existed in the Sahara Desert, according to some historians and researchers. They believe that the city has not yet been discovered and is buried beneath the sand. In the Sahara Desert in 1999, a group of French researchers discovered what they believed to be evidence of a lost city. Although the researchers discovered some ruins in an ancient road, they were unable to gather sufficient evidence to establish that Atlantis existed in this region. People have been looking for the possible location of the Atlantean city that was lost from ancient times to the present day. The absence of the city cannot be disputed. What's going on? The ancient texts that tell the story of this lost city hold the answer. One thing unites all versions of the Atlantis legend: the great disaster that caused the city to sink beneath the sea. A tsunami, an earthquake, or a volcanic eruption could have caused this catastrophe. The outcome was the same. Regardless of the cause, Atlantis was forever lost. Many people think that Santorini is Atlantis' lost city. The fact that Santorini was once an island but is now a peninsula where Atlantis is the foundation of this theory. A volcanic eruption is said to have destroyed the island in 1500 BCE. The island sank into the ocean as a result of this eruption. A Greek professor named Angelos Galanopoulos made the claim in 1960 that he had discovered evidence of Atlantis on Santorini. He gives a lot of specifics about how the city was laid out and destroyed. However, this theory is not without its flaws. To begin, there is no evidence to support the existence of Atlantis. Second, even if the mythical Atlantis did exist, it is unlikely that it was on Santorini. The island is too small to be Atlantis, the lost continent. Additionally, the island's circular shape does not correspond to Plato's description of Atlantis. Aside from these theories, Santorini is a beautiful destination that you should add to your travel bucket list. 9 islands make up the Azores group in the Atlantic Ocean. São Miguel is the name of the large island. Portugal is approximately 1,000 kilometers, 620 miles, away from these islands. The Azores were first discovered by Portuguese explorers in the 15th century. Some people think that the Azores are Atlantis' lost city. The fact that the islands are in such a faraway region of the world is the foundation of this theory. The island's intense volcanic activity may also have contributed to their submersion beneath the ocean. The Azores have been the subject of numerous reports of strange activity, including UFO sightings and disappearances. However, because it does not match Plato's description, there is no evidence to support the theory that the Azores are the lost city of Atlantis. Additionally, the location of the Azores is not ideal for Atlantis. It is believed that the lost city lies in the Mediterranean Sea, not the Atlantic. In the Bahamas, there is an island called Bimini. The island is approximately 31 miles, 50 kilometers, from Nassau. Due to its crystal-clear waters and white sand beaches, Bimini is a popular tourist destination. Due to the numerous strange objects that have been discovered in the area, some individuals hold the belief that Bimini is the lost city of Atlantis. Edgar Cayce predicted in 1968 that Bimini would be the location of the Atlantean ruins. A rock formation that some people believe to be artificial was discovered off the coast of Bimini in 1969. The Bimini Road is the name given to this formation. It is also said that the ancient city of Atlantis was near Bimini Road. However, there is no proof that Bimini is Atlantis' lost city. Most likely, the Bimini Road was formed by nature. There have been numerous other theories regarding the location of Atlantis, but no one has demonstrated its existence. Crete was the center of the powerful Minoan civilization in 2000 BC. The Minoans built numerous stunning palaces and had a highly developed culture. They also traded with other cultures and were skilled sailors. Plato, a Greek historian, said that Atlantis was an island near Crete. According to him, Atlantis was a powerful empire that tried to attack Athens but lost. Some people think that Plato's story is inspired by the Minoan people. On the Greek island of Santorini, they believe a volcanic eruption destroyed the Minoans. Atlantis could also be built in Malta, Gibraltar, or the Canary Islands. On the other hand, there is no proof that Atlantis ever existed. Although Plato's tale may be based on actual events, it is probably a myth. On the Greek island of Crete, a bull's carved stone head has been discovered. This head is like the one that Plato talked about in his story. You will travel to Spain's Andalusia from the west coast of Bimini. Here is the city of Cadiz, which some people think was the location of Atlantis. Atlantis was a prosperous island near the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar, according to Plato. Because it is only about 8 miles from the Pillars, Cadiz certainly fits this description. Additionally, Andalusia was once a part of the Tartessos Empire, which some believe may have provided inspiration for Plato's tale. Hebrew texts frequently associate Atlantis with the city of Tarshish. Andalusia is home to this. So, could this be the location of the lost city? It's possible, but there isn't any concrete evidence to support it. A statue of Poseidon and a large stone disc are among the strange items that researchers have discovered in the water nearby. However, these items do not necessarily prove that Atlantis existed. They could be from any number of ancient cultures. From 427 to 347 BC, Plato was a well-known Greek philosopher who lived in Athens. He is best known for his theories about the nature of reality, ethics, and government. Additionally, he produced a number of dialogues or philosophical and moral conversations. In one of these dialogues, the Critias, Plato related a tale about an ancient city called Atlantis. He claimed that Atlantis was a prosperous island nation larger than both Libya and Asia Minor were taken together. The Atlanteans had conquered numerous other nations and established a formidable navy and army. According to Plato's writings, the Atlanteans were ultimately defeated in a large battle. Atlantis was sunk into the ocean when a natural disaster struck the island following their defeat. Plato went into greater detail about Atlantis' civilization and island in his book Timaeus. Although a lot of people think that Plato's story is just a myth, there is evidence to the contrary. Plato's description of the island provides the first evidence that Atlantis existed. He claimed that Atlantis was part of a massive plateau that extended for several hundred miles and was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. This description is very similar to the geology of the Cycladic Plateau, a large area of land that runs from Greece to Turkey. Rhodes and Crete are two of the larger islands that make up the Cycladic Plateau. Additionally, it is surrounded by small islands that may be Atlantean relics. According to Plato's writings, the Atlanteans were an advanced and prosperous civilization. He claimed that they had developed a writing system and that their city was brimming with magnificent palaces and temples. This description is very similar to the Minoan civilization, an ancient civilization that lived on Crete from 2000 to 1400 BC. The Minoans were wealthy people who constructed impressive temples and palaces. Additionally, they developed a writing system and engaged in extensive trade with other civilizations. Around 1400 BC, when Plato said Atlantis was destroyed, the Minoan civilization vanished suddenly. Many people have been led to believe that the Minoans were the Atlanteans because of this. Atlantis was found by sudden rise in sea level. Atlantis was sunk into the ocean by a massive tsunami or earthquake, as depicted by Plato. Around 1450 BC, scientists discovered a sudden rise in sea level of 6 meters, 20 feet, in 2008. The sudden demise of the Minoan civilization could be explained by this sea level rise, which would have been sufficient to flood the island of Crete. The same catastrophe struck Atlantis. Regarding the occupier, some claim they relocated to Spain, others contend that America has replaced Atlantis. There are still a lot of unanswered questions regarding Atlantis, the lost continent. However, as new evidence emerges, we might finally learn the truth about what happened to this fabled city. Many people think that it won't be long before the lost city of Atlantis is found. A group of researchers made the announcement in 2018 that they had found the ruins of an ancient civilization in the Caribbean. In the hope of establishing a connection between this civilization and the lost city of Atlantis, the team used DNA analysis to identify the remains. According to the findings of the study, this civilization's inhabitants shared DNA with those of the Canary Islands. The Canary Islands, which were once a part of Atlantis, are off the coast of Africa. This finding adds to the evidence that the Atlantic Ocean was where the Atlantean city that was lost was. It also demonstrates that the people of Africa and Atlantis were closely related. Additionally, the study found that this civilization's DNA was comparable to that of South Americans. After their city was destroyed, this suggests that the people of Atlantis may have moved to South America. The search for Atlantis has made a significant leap forward with the discovery of this ancient civilization. It provides new information about the location of this lost city and demonstrates that Atlantis was a real location. Archaeologists and historians have been baffled by the search for Atlantis' lost city for centuries. Discoveries give us a better understanding of what Atlantis may have looked like and where it may have been located, despite the fact that there is still a lot that we do not know about this fabled city. We are getting closer to locating the lost city of Atlantis with each new piece of evidence. Have you ever considered the appearance of the people who lived in the lost city of Atlantis? Atlantis' inhabitants were a highly developed civilization. They were skilled in engineering and architecture and had developed a writing system. Additionally, the people of Atlantis were skilled in trade and agriculture. Atlanteans were tall, standing an average of 6 feet tall. They had blue eyes and long blonde hair. Atlantis inhabitants were tranquil. They respected all forms of life and lived in harmony with the natural world. People from Atlantis were very spiritual. Greek deities were part of their religious upbringing. Reincarnation was another belief held by the Atlanteans. They believed that the soul could reincarnate into another body and be immortal. Atlanteans had a lot of knowledge. They knew a lot about the universe and the natural world. Additionally, the people of Atlantis were able to harness the sun's and stars' power. The people of Atlantis had access to metals that could not be found on Earth in the past. The weapons and tools made with these metals were far superior to anything else in the ancient world. It was thought that the people of Atlantis were a mix of gods and humans. This is due to the fact that they were able to harness the sun's and stars' power. In addition, the people of Atlantis were able to create tools and weapons that were significantly more advanced than anything else in the ancient world. The Atlanteans were able to cultivate crops in any climate thanks to an effective irrigation system. It was believed that the people of Atlantis could fly. This is because they were skilled in engineering and architecture and had developed a writing system. Additionally, the people of Atlantis were skilled in trade and agriculture. Atlantis inhabitants were tranquil. Nonetheless, they were compelled to protect their land from invading forces. The people of Atlantis were skilled at war and had a large military. For hundreds of years, the people of Atlantis were able to repel all invaders and safeguard their land. Poseidon, Cleto, and Atlas are the main characters in the myths of Atlantis. The god of the sea was Poseidon. Additionally, he was the god of storms and earthquakes. Cleto, a human woman, was the object of Poseidon's affection. 5 sets of identical twin boys were born to Cleto. Atlas was the firstborn, and he became Atlantis' king. Cadorus, the second son, took over as the island's protector. Ances, the third son, became the god of fire. Cecrops, the fourth son, was crowned king of Athens. Critias, the fifth and youngest son, went on to become a historian and philosopher. The fact that numerous academics have debated their existence for centuries makes it inaccurate to refer to them as legends. According to Nith, the city had 5 entrances and tunnels, and Poseidon divided the continent into 10 parts by building a wall that went around the outside and through the middle, from north to south. It was also said that the island was surrounded by concentric moats and canals that were used for both navigation and defense. Beyond the Pillars of Hercules was an ocean that they referred to as the Atlantic, and they were aware of other continents. Canals are also said to have divided Western Asia and Africa, which were said to have been fertile and rich in resources. Numerous people have looked to ancient texts for clues. This is the first record of the city. Critias asserts that Atlantis was a powerful and prosperous empire that had a population of 90,000 people. Here are 10 surprising facts that demonstrate the existence of the fabled city of Atlantis. The Captivation Palace is probably the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word Atlantis. It was said that the palace was the largest and most beautiful structure in all of Atlantis. It was made of white marble and had precious stones on it. Atlantis' center of social and political activity was the Captivation Palace. Atlantis' most sacred structure was the Great Temple. It was said to be so beautiful that no words could express it. The gods and goddesses of Atlantis were honored when the temple was constructed. Numerous significant religious events took place there, including the king's coronation. Many sea creatures, including huge crabs and whales, were said to live in the real ocean that surrounded the floating island of Atlantis. Additionally, a massive golden statue of Poseidon is believed to have stood in the fabled city of Atlantis. It was said that the statue was so large that it could be seen from anywhere on the island. One of Atlantis' most prized possessions was the golden Poseidon statue. When Atlantis was destroyed, the statue was destroyed. The Crystal Palace was Atlantis' most stunning structure. It was said to be entirely glass, with ceilings and walls that were transparent. The Atlantean king and queen lived in the palace. Additionally, the Crystal Palace served as the setting for numerous important social and political gatherings. The Crystal Palace was one of the first buildings to be destroyed when Atlantis was destroyed. There has long been the belief that the Greek gods loved people and gave them gifts. Many people believe that the Atlanteans were loved by the gods, so they gave them special powers. The belief that the gods would never give such gifts to humans unless they loved them is the foundation of this theory. One of the most important gods associated with Atlantis was Poseidon, the god of the sea. He was reportedly fond of the city and its inhabitants. It was said that the gardens of Atlantis were among the world's most beautiful. They were overflowing with exotic flowers and plants from around the world. Numerous animals, including lions, tigers, and elephants, lived in the gardens as well. There were numerous beaches where people could unwind and soak up the sun along the coast of Atlantis. Atlantis was a prosperous, self-sufficient city with a thriving economy. The city had a robust military, well-developed infrastructure, and flourishing agriculture, all of which were necessary for self-sufficiency. Additionally, Atlantis had numerous factories and trade routes. It was said that Atlantis had a perfect climate. The weather was never too hot or cold, and the temperature was always mild. Additionally, it was believed that the Atlantean island was disease-free. Plato believed that the people of Atlantis were among the world's healthiest and most beautiful. Most of the time, any claim that something is perfect has some truth to it. The outsiders of Atlantis were said to have numerous phenomenal abilities, including the capacity to fly, move objects with their brains, and see into what was in store. It was believed that the Atlantean gods and goddesses gave these powers to them as gifts. It was also said that the people of Atlantis could communicate with animals. Atlantis, it is said, was either a colony of aliens or a city on Mars. There is some truth to every assertion. Robert Ballard, an ocean explorer, is of the opinion that the events of the legend of Atlantis are true. Ballard thinks that the myth of Atlantis got its start on the island of Thera in the Mediterranean Sea. In 1628 BC, a volcanic eruption destroyed a prosperous city. On Thera, you also find many of Atlantis' characteristics, such as its advanced society and an ideal climate. The legend of Atlantis has captivated people's imaginations for thousands of years, regardless of whether it is based on actual events. The timeless tale of a lost city that will continue to captivate people for future generations is the Atlantis legend. Other than the dialogue types of Plato and all of the ancient Greek texts, there are no written records of Atlantis. Despite advancements in technology, numerous archaeological sites have been discovered. Nobody is certain. Some people think Atlantis is in the Atlantic Ocean, while others think it is in the Mediterranean Sea. Some people even believe that it is off the Antarctic coast or in the Pacific Ocean. In reality, no one knows for sure where Atlantis is. It's possible that it was just a Plato-made legend that never happened to exist. Or, Atlantis was probably a real city that was destroyed by an earthquake or tsunami. We may never know where Atlantis was until definitive evidence is discovered.